English it would be LEA or yeah.
Hello there, and welcome to this video. And I'm very pleased to have, and I've just been told the pronunciation, LEA LARSSON, who is a
Yes,
Swedish metal drummer. How are you, LEA?
I'm awesome. The
Great.
weather here is amazing, so I'm great.
So you're not actually in Sweden, are you, at the moment? Where are you?
No, I'm not in Sweden. I live in Sweden, but or I'm kind of flexing between China and Sweden at the moment. So I'm in Beijing in China, where I spend most of my time because of jobs.
Mm.
So it's maybe like a year or a year and a half more, and then I'll be back in Sweden. Yeah.
And you are also a heavy metal drummer. And I saw
Yes,
your
I am.
pick. I saw your pick. I don't know. At some point, I saw you pick, and you were sat behind the most incredible double bass drum kit, which oh my god, I can't get my words out. With what looked like 24-inch bass drums, which I thought was very
It
impressive.
was.
So
It's a custom drum kit, and it's made. The shells are Keller drums, if you know what that is. Like
yeah, I
they
know Kelly
usually
drums.
did the DW shells, but that's my Keller drum kit, and it's 24 18-inch bass drums. And the special thing about them is that they have cutouts from the shells and on the sides, so you don't need to have the cutouts from the head skins. So you
Oh
can have the
wow,
like the full skin, but it still breathes.
it still breathes. You can, I suppose, you can put a mic into that hole as well, can't you?
Yeah, yeah, no
Is
problem.
that is that how you mic them?
No. I usually mic them in front,
In front, yeah.
or use a trigger or something. But the thing is, I usually don't use that drum kit for live. I have this acrylic DW drum kit too, so I usually use that for live purposes.
Brilliant.
Uh, yeah.
And how long have you been doing these sorts of quite high level gigs? I've had a look into what you do. So how long have you been working in the industry as a metal drummer?
Yeah, like I don't know if I'm kind of ashamed to say it, but like I signed my first record deal 25 years ago, and I've
Oh my
always been
God!
like, no, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I'm like, fuck, it's 25 years. Oh my God.
How?
And
You
and
must have been about -4.
no, I'm older than I look though, so
Oh,
that's why.
that's
No, so
incredible.
I've been playing drums for 30 years now.
Oh, that's brilliant. So you're an experienced drummer. You know
Yes,
you've
I've
done
played in a
tours.
lot of bands. I started like that was my like first not really my first, but my first proper band, and we got signed on like a Italian metal record label, and it was fucking awesome. I was still in the gymnasium, you know.
Yeah,
I was like 18,
yeah.
and it was my
That's
like with my best friends, and we lived together in a collective, and we had a band, and it
that.
was good times.
Back in the old days where deals were proper
Yep.
deals and you could, do it all day long rather than trying to get it done on the weekends. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I know professional players now that are going out, on like one rehearsal and doing 3 gigs, then coming back, and you never get into it. I mean, 20 years ago, I was doing like 30 dates in a row, and it never happens anymore. But anyway,
No,
uh,
I know it's
uh,
not like that anymore. Now it's like, can you play this 10 gigs and do 2 shows, and we have 1.5 rehearsal with
yeah,
like half of the band.
yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
how,
that's a common thing.
how do you think how do you think I my first love was heavy metal, like Iron Maiden, Venom, Angel Witch, Diamond Head. I came up in the new wave of British heavy metal. I've always loved that style of drumming, and it's influenced me. But in the last few years, when I put a heavy metal record on, I can't hear the drummer anymore. It doesn't sound like a drummer to me. It
Well,
sounds more
there
like
could
a
be a
drum
reason for
machine.
that, you know. Yeah,
So
could be
can
a
you just
reason for that. But I mean, I mean, in the 90s and like the early 2000s, it was the technology for like programming everything on records wasn't really there. But now it is, and it's very cheap and it's very accessible. So, like nowadays, usually if you listen to metal, you think there's a drummer, but usually it's not.
So this is something that I've wanted to really get across to so many people, and because I'm an older guy and I've not played in that many metal bands, they never believe me that if you're listening
Yeah.
to a modern heavy metal record, you're probably not listening to a real drummer, are you?
No, you're not. And the thing is, I work as a professional sound engineer too, and I've been like a music producer several years too. So I know the drill, and like recording drums is the most expensive and the most like time consuming thing on the record. So a lot of people like, especially when it's like on a budget, a recording on a budget, like that's usually where you like make a little bit some more
Mm.
money by programming the drums instead. So
So
that's usually how it is nowadays.
why do you think the audience don't realize it? What do you think's happened technologically? Because many years ago, if you put a drum machine on a record, everyone would go, "Oh my God, there's a drum machine on there." I remember
Yeah,
Ministry program their drums. It was part of the sound. It was cool, but you knew it
yeah,
was a drum machine. But now
yeah,
that
yeah.
the sounds don't sound so much like drum machines, do they?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, as drummers, we usually hear when it's like program drums, but usually people don't, because it's programmed pretty well nowadays. And
Mm,
also like all the new like programs like Easy Drummer and all these plugins they use nowadays, they are all the sounds are sampled, so it's actually real drum sounds, and it's amazing. Like the sound is awesome, and like you have like already done grooves, and like you can humanize the grooves on these apps, so it sounds really really genuine, but you can still tell difference,
mm.
especially if there's like a not a people someone who doesn't really play drums that programmed it, which is usually the case. So yeah.
With the rise of double bass drumming in metal, which has become a bigger and bigger thing, I can remember in the mid '80s getting, it was actually an Anthrax album, and Charlie Benante's double bass drums on Among the Living. I could not believe someone was playing. And then you heard,
Yeah,
Dave Lombardo, and so I was trying my hardest to get those going.
yeah,
On that, and the kids wanted to hear faster and faster bass drums,
yeah,
and now you're hearing these blurring bass drums all over everything.
yeah,
How
yeah.
many how many of the drummers actually could play that accurately and intensely?
I don't know. It's like I usually think about that with like the really Mickey like bass drum stuff when it's like gent music and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But the thing is, my friend, or Thomas Hake in Meshuggah,
yeah, yeah,
like all these people are from Stockholm, so these are
yeah.
people I know, and I mean, he plays it like he does
Oh,
it
he
like a
does. Yeah,
fucking drum
but
machine. He's
well, he's the
Oh
guy.
my God, so
Yeah,
it,
he's
it's
there
not
are drummers.
impossible.
Oh God, there's loads. I mean, there's it's I used to do drum clinics with Marco Miniman and Thomas Lang, and those guys can do
Oh,
it for real. They can do
yeah,
it for real.
yeah,
And
yeah. Yeah.
Thomas can do it for real. And I actually did a little bit of work with a guy called Simon Anderson, who worked with Pain of Salvation and all those guys. So, yeah, there's players out there that do it, but you're saying that even though these guys can do it, when you listen to the record, it's not necessarily them on the record. Now,
Yeah, yeah.
if if they do play on the record, are you still hearing the sounds, or are you
I
hearing?
think you do, because you you hear the different like how hard, like there's a difference,
Mm,
there's like a diversity on how hard the punches are.
yeah,
But on the other hand, I mean, nowadays most metal drummers use a lot of triggers, even
mm,
live, so they
yeah,
sound like extremely tight and stuff like that. I don't really like triggers. I like the acoustic feel of drums. It's
yeah,
supposed to be like if you punch the bass drum hard or soft. I mean, that's for a reason, and that's like taking a note differently on a guitar for me. So a drum is a living instrument, and I mean, as a drummer, like we pick the wood in the shells,
mm,
we pick the sizes, we pick the heads, we pick everything because of how they sound and how the like personality of the drums. So I don't know. But I think nowadays also like the mastering and the end like result of a metal album is very like compact. It's like if you look at it, if you look at a like a already mixed album and you look at it in the waveform in a studio, you see that it looks like a brick. There's no like up and down like this. It's just a brick, and that's like it's very compressed and it's very like it has to be like
Yeah.
this.
No,
So yeah.
no loud and quiet, no dynamic range.
No, it's not. It's not a lot of dynamic, and you know this thing called Beat Detective.
Oh yeah, I know it. Yeah.
A lot of producers use Beat Detective too. So like even when you record something, they use this. They don't ask you if they can use it. They
No,
just use it, and then
so
it's just
this
like
is
this.
why I wanted to chat to you because I saw your post on Facebook about your most recent band, and we'll get into that in a minute. But
Yeah,
what was interesting is trying to get a metal drummer that will actually come out and say this is actually what is happening in metal. This is the way the drummers are recorded. That for a
yeah.
start, most records haven't got a drummer on their program. If they have got a drummer on, you're not hearing the drummer's drum sounds, are you? You're hearing triggers.
No, yeah.
And if the drummers played afterwards, it's Beat Detective, which is a program that puts everything in time and tightens everything up.
It
Not
kind of
only,
chops up every beat and quantize it.
yeah,
So it's
quantizes it, yeah,
extremely tightly. Like yeah.
yeah. And
And
the thing
Beat
that you
Detective is
said,
not good at ghost notes. I can tell you that.
no, no. One of the things I wanted to get across to people is when you go into the studio, and you just said it, so it's not me leading you there. You just
No,
said they do it regardless. So you could play
yeah,
perfectly
yeah.
in time, can't you? You could have nailed it, but it doesn't matter, does it? Straight away, they're going to
No, not
tighten the
really.
grid.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's different between different producers, but
Mm,
usually that's the case. Yeah.
yeah.
If they, especially like if they also produce pop and rock and stuff like that, they usually do it as a routine more than
Mm,
more than coloring the play. You know. Yeah.
yeah. That's really interesting. So, um, as I said, I saw on Facebook that you'd had a situation with your most recent band. Do you want to explain to
Yes.
our audience what's happened?
Well, I've been I've been the drummer of a band called Metalite since kind of since it started, but not really. But up until 2 days ago, when I got fired from the band. But is Metalite is kind of a one-man project. It's a one-person project. It's started by one man, and it's one person that writes everything, does everything, and tells everyone what to do. And if you don't do it, you get fired. And the thing is, I kind of take a lot of pride in the way I play. And like if you're a member of a band, you know, if you're a full-fledged member,
Mm,
I've been in a lot of bands, and in all of them, I've been very creative and been like adding me to the mix and adding me to the songs and stuff. But that was not like the case in this band, and it was not really appreciated. I was supposed to play every note, every beat, everything exactly as the program drums on the record, which I was not really keen on doing because they were also programmed by someone who's never been behind the drum kit. And I only have 2 arms and 2 legs, so I can't really play everything like it's programmed because then I would need 3 legs and 4 arms, which is kind of hard. So
I love it.
that's how it
Everything
is.
you're saying. When I was working in the prog and prog metal, this I started to see this, and I couldn't stick it whatsoever. And I got out of it. I just thought I'm not going to have that happen. And some of the stuff
No.
you're reminding me of, where you've got like a drum beat going on, and then they've got a fill, but they don't stop the drum beat, do they? So you get the drum beat going while the fill goes over the top of it, or you get crashes while the hi hats are still going. There's all this stuff that
Yeah, yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
logically work. Yeah, I know. I remember it well. So
Yeah. And the thing is also like I'm not saying it's wrong to do like that. I mean, it's up to everyone to do music as they choose. I
of
mean,
course,
that's
yeah.
not a problem. It's just that, and I kind of should have known this from the beginning. I should have done my research a little bit better. But uh, what would have happened then is that I would have dropped out earlier. So this was kind of a good thing that happened, I think. Like after the shock of hearing it, like one day after we got back from a European tour, it was a little bit much, but still now it's like okay, it was a fucking good thing. Like yeah, all my inspiration and creative like will to make music just came back again. So it was kind of a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
But with
but
that said, I still like it's not a I mean, I hope they find someone that actually likes doing what they want them to do. So yeah. But it's not me. So
no, I know that I've spoken to a lot of guitarists, metal guitarists, and sort of virtuoso guitar players and stuff like that. That they say they've got two lots of drummers. They've got drummers that they use live that have got a groove and can
yeah.
play it and play off the music. So when the intensity comes up, they react. But when they do their records, they pull in these guys that are basically are just readers. They're like classical musicians, and they program the drum parts. The albums have got programmed drums on, and then they bring these guys in, and these guys literally just read exactly what is on the page, note for
Yeah,
note,
yeah.
and play it. And one of the things I've noticed with my drum students is they want to play like that. They want to learn the beat that's on the
Yep.
record. And I'm going, well, surely you want to learn to, that guy, that he came up with that beat.
Yeah.
Now, I agree with you that in you could do whatever you want. People can do whatever they want. If they want to program
Yeah,
their
yeah.
drums, I've got no problem with it. But from a musical point of view, I've got a number of issues with it. So the first one, I want to see what you think. The first one is if you've got a band and you've got a real drummer like this band, wouldn't it be wiser to let the specialist in drumming have a say in the drum parts? Would that not make the
Yeah,
music
that's
better?
kind of what I think. And like, I mean, the main thing why I do music or anything that has anything remotely like to do with music or like art or whatever I would
Mm,
do, it's because I want to be creative and express myself. Like that's the
mm,
fun part about music. And if you're not like allowed to do that, like it's more like a job. It's more like
mm.
a task you need to do. Like,
Yeah,
and that's not really, I mean, you do that every day when you go to work anyway. So like, why do it
but
in your
from
passion? You know?
but from a musical point of view, all this stuff that they're trying to program wasn't invented by programmers. It was invented by brilliant drummers that actually went, well,
I
I
know.
could do this. I mean, we were talking about Thomas Hart from Meshuggah. That
Yeah.
guy reinvented, one of the many metal drummers that has reinvented drumming, come up with all sorts of different things.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now people
There's
are
a
trying to
reason they call him the professor. There's a reason for it. He's fucking amazing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I really think the forefront of drumming at the moment, the sort of experimental avant-garde end of drumming, is in metal.
Yeah.
And
But I really get what you say, like letting the specialists do the job, like do it because they have so much experience of doing it. So we know these little things that actually nuances everything and make it sound genuine and real and good and like add something to the song and not just something in the background to keep the beat. I mean, any drum machine can do that, but like a drummer is a drummer. I mean, we have a sense of taste and we have our own
mm,
our own groove and our own personal style of doing stuff. So, I mean, that's what an artist does. And a musician, we add stuff, and I mean, we don't play the same stuff this day and tomorrow. I mean, it's going to be a little bit different,
mm.
and I guess
And
it's the same for a singer. It's not going to be like a robot either. It's going to be different, and that's the
well,
charm of it.
the thing with metal that it's happened to the whole lot, hasn't it? Because if you're a guitarist now, they're not recording your amp sound, are they? They're plugging you in
No,
clean and putting the
yeah,
distortion on afterwards. So the producer's choosing the distortion of the guitar, the tone of the guitar, the effects on the guitar. They're choosing which take they want to get. So if someone's playing a
yeah,
riff You don't get the riff all the way through. They've chopped the one riff and pasted it all the way through, track loop, loop, loop. The singers have all been
Yeah,
tuned and pushed in, compressed, and their
yeah.
vibrato's been the whole thing's fake, and I got no problem with that. The fact that it is fake, but do you think the metal audience know it's fake?
I don't know. I guess they have to know about like autotune on vocals, for instance. Like every recording nowadays has autotune on the
Mm,
vocals.
mm,
There's no exception. I mean, no exception. Even
no.
if it's just a little. And like if you talk to a music producer, they usually say like there's nothing better than putting autotune on perfect vocals. And I'm like, why? You know, but that's
Because it works. Because
yeah, yeah,
I won't
exactly.
say who it is, but I know someone who got a Grammy, right, for working with some really big artists. And I said, "What do you get the Grammy for?" And he says, "For getting crap singers in tune." And I won't
Yeah,
say what singers it
yeah,
was.
yeah, yeah.
He says,
But I
that's
mean, that's kind of what the fans expect nowadays, and the listeners to music. That's kind of what you expect. And like nowadays, if you hear like a vocal that's a little bit pitchy, you're like, "Whoa, what's that?" Because you're so used to it, everything being like perfect. It's like clinical. It's like being in an operation room in a hospital. It's like too perfect. It's not gonna. The problem is when you do it too perfect and you can't live up to that live, it's going to be it's I mean what you actually want with a band is that the live sounds better than the album, and that's hard to do when you do too much and you're not really up to the task. Like that's hard. So I think
what
that
I sorry, what I've noticed
no
with
no no
metal
yeah
bands as well is when I see metal bands live, if they either can't play and you could hear that it's not quite right, but when they can play, the dynamic range is still wider, so it doesn't have that
yeah
feel because
yeah exactly
it's got a real band who's playing.
yeah
Yeah, I don't know how much. I think the audience knows that stuff's going on, but I don't think they've got an idea of what actually can be done computer-wise
no
nowadays,
exactly
which is whatever you imagine, isn't it? Basically,
yeah yeah. And I
Uh,
mean, like, it's also like a drummer in a metal band nowadays. Like the thing you hear the most in your ears when you play live is tick, took, 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 tick, took, 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 because they all play to backtracks and clicks like a metronome. And that's like, that's the norm nowadays. And like, if you would come to a gig and not play with a backtrack, it would feel like people would like, oh, it's so empty. It's so like, so it's so much behind the scenes. And I mean, people usually said to us in this previous band, like, you should get a keyboard player. It's weird when there's no so much keyboards and there's no keyboard player. And we're like, we would need like 5 keyboard players to play everything if we didn't have a backtrack. Like it would never work. So then half of the band would be keyboard players. So it wouldn't really work. But that's usually what happens nowadays. And like, I mean,
what?
I've seen a lot of times when they have like technical issues on stage and the backtrack equipment
Mm,
stops working, then it's just silent for like 10 minutes. And then they're like, oh, fuck, we're going to have to play without the backtracks now. A
yeah,
complete song without backtracks. And
but
like, that was not an issue like 20 years ago,
no.
but it is today. And I mean, yeah,
How,
that's
how,
how
how,
it is.
should we go back into your sort of history in terms of your playing? How old were you when you started playing?
I was, the thing is, drums is the instrument I started with last. Like I started
Mm,
playing piano and then I played guitar for a long while. And I started playing drums when I was 14. That was the first time I tried to like sit behind a drum kit at a music class in school. And I tried to do like a beat and it just worked and it was so amazing. So that's when I just decided I'm going to play drums. That this is my new stuff. This is
mm,
my new shit. And I just learned myself. I bought my first record was Far Beyond Driven with Panthera, and I just sat there behind the drums and just listened and tried to mimic everything. And I like that's the bass drum, that's the snare, that's the hi hat, and I was just listening and copying. in my mom's
that
bedroom.
that
And that's how I
that
learned. So
incredible album, incredible album.
yeah,
It's
it's
like
so it
I,
was so amazing.
when all
It
the
was so
thrash
cool.
bands came out, they were really brilliant. And my favorite was Anthrax. Got Metallica, got Slayer, Sepultura, all those Megadeth. So I came up in that
Yeah, yeah,
period when Pantera came out with Vulgar Display of Power.
yeah, yeah,
They sort of set a new bar, and then when Far
yeah,
Beyond Driven came out, the track I'm Broken, I think, is an absolute masterpiece. The way it's put
yeah, yeah.
together, and Dimebag's guitar solo, which is berserk.
Yeah, this like I'm Broken and the 5 minutes alone and all those songs. It's so amazing. And
Yeah.
it's quite simple, but still fucking hard to mimic, you know?
Oh
And that's
God, yeah,
because there's no drum machine, there's no autotune, it's nothing. It's just
yeah.
really
And
awesome.
on I'm Broken, when they go to that guitar solo, all you're hearing is drums, bass, and guitar. There's no rhythm.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
and the guitar sounds like they've suddenly moved back, and the
yeah,
guitar sounds like goes wow, and you go, whoa, we're in a
yeah. And
massive room.
what I really like about Panthera also is that they only have one guitarist. And on the solo parts of the album, it's usually just one guitar. There's like
I love that.
no
I
more. It's
love
just
that.
no comp guitar. It is so fucking awesome. It's so cool.
Yeah,
Like there was nothing to hide there, you know,
and it
and
gives
they
Vinny
can
that
pull it off
Vinny
live.
then Vinny. It almost goes like jazz because Vinny could then
Yeah,
bend with the guitar solo, and you go bow,
yeah, yeah,
bow, bow,
yeah,
bow. Apps. I love all this. So yeah.
yeah. It's so cool.
I got to tell you, I'd been when that album came out, I'd been playing for about I'd say about 15 years. So it didn't seem simple then.
Yeah.
It was like
No, I can imagine.
they had that track New Level, and it was tracks like fucking Hostile. I can
Yeah.
remember, it just insane, and the intensity you played it. So what bands did you move on to then? Was it all metal, or have you got any other drum
Uh,
heroes?
I've never been all metal. I've been listening to everything like all the time. And I play a lot. Like in China, I play a lot with different artists and different constellations and projects and stuff. And
Mm.
it's usually like metal is not that big here. So and I kind of like it also because I love playing everything. I like and I listen a lot to funk and fusion and stuff like that because I like to diverse my playing style, and I think you learn a lot by playing other music styles. And like in when I went to music college, I studied jazz drumming, you know, and that helps you a lot with the technique and stuff like that. And I really like that.
Uh, what
So,
what
and now
what
here
sort of
in
what
what?
sort of jazz drummers were you influenced by? Because this is something I also really believe. I think there's a really strong link between metal and jazz, and I think a lot
Yeah,
of
I think so
people that
too.
end up loving jazz come to it
Mhm.
from metal. I did,
Yeah,
and so the gateway to jazz is metal, but the jazz world's so snotty they don't want to
yeah,
see that these kids are coming up. I've taught kids, and they're like, "Oh, I've heard Alan Holdsworth, and I've heard Scott Henderson, and I really love it." And you could see they want to move into it, and as they move into it, they go into this snotty world, which is completely
yeah,
like the metal world, where it's like you just got to do, punch
yeah,
people in the
yeah,
face. So
yeah, yeah.
what sort of? Because I think this is a wonderful thing if there's a younger drummers watching this to realise that even though you've played in some pretty heavy bands, what sort of drummers do you take inspiration from?
Yeah, I
Who
listen
would
to a
you?
lot with like Gene Krupa and all these guys,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And also there's a lot of Swedish jazz artists, and one band is called Esbjörn Svensson's
Yeah,
trio,
incredible. Yeah.
right? Trio, and I really listened a lot to that. And also like my in college, my drum teacher in college was Morgan Ågren. Uh,
Oh,
you know him?
I
So
just I played on an album last year, and he was the other drummer on
uh,
it.
yeah,
So
he's completely he's
he's the
he's crazy, you know, and he's
yeah.
I mean he's a like he probably plays drums better than he speaks Swedish, you know, but like he's amazing. He's so amazing, and like sitting there with him on a in a one-on-one and like learning learning from him all these, like he just look at you and like, yeah, you should do this practice. This would be awesome for you. And like, okay. I mean, he used to play drums for Frank Zappa, you know. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it.
Well,
And so everything with him, like the Fleck Quartetten and stuff like that, it was amazing.
but if
And I go to a lot of jazz
I've never met
concerts and stuff like that too.
I've never met Morgan, but I've shared a lot of drums stuff with him. One of my best
Yeah,
friends is a guitarist called Fayan Zek, and he writes stuff that is as hard as Frank Zappa. And on the
yeah,
last album, Fi sent me one over to play, and I was like, "Oh, Fi, that's going to take me like 4 weeks to learn. I just can't
yeah.
learn. That's too." And so he sends it over to Morgan. Two
No, I
hours
know, I
later,
know.
Morgan. 2 hours later, Morgan sends the take back. It was just like what?
Yeah, he
So
also had time to record it. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. He just got
that's
it
kind
and
of
had a
him.
couple of listens and then sent it
Yeah,
back. Absolutely, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's amazing.
it's a small world, isn't it? That you
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
I can talk to a musician from Sweden who's in China. We start chatting, and then you realise you've got these little links between. It's a
Yeah, we
wonderful
probably
thing.
have more than that. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Definitely. And like also like in Sweden, it's a very like small world because there's so much musicians in Sweden. Like it's so dense with awesome musicians. So I think it was very like privileged growing up like that and like knowing all
With
these
that,
people. Like there were
the
a lot of
progressive
like
rock.
these
Yeah.
yeah, a lot
Sorry.
of these like huge famous band nowadays were like my friends when I was younger, and like seeing them going to all these and like also, I mean, usually when you're doing sports or something, you say like you shouldn't practice with the people that are less good than you. You should practice with the people that are more like advanced than you because that's when you learn. And that's I think that was a gift like when I was younger because I had a lot of these people around me. And also my cousin's husband, he plays in a band called Impera, and
It's called.
also
Say
he's
that
like
again, because
Impera. They like it's also like a classic like heavy metal band. They opened for Kiss when they played in Sweden last like on their last show. And he's a very good friend of Ian Haugland from Europe. So my first drum kit in my mom's bedroom was put together by Ian Haugland from Scrap Parts, you know. So so like I didn't know that then, but I know it now. Like, and
Mm.
it's cool. It's amazing, and people helped out each other, and you know, it's a really small world, and everybody knows each other. So it's really cool. So when you go
Music.
to a gig in Stockholm nowadays, you meet all these like people. Oh, that's the drummer from this band, and that's the singer from this band. You know, you know them. It's really nice.
When I look at a player like you and all the experience you've had and what you can do and what you bring to the music, and then you look at not all metal, but a lot of metal, and look how it's been created. You know, I wanted to talk to you. I mean, I can't affect anything with my little YouTube, but it's still, I think metal needs to go back to having a bit more rock and roll metal guts.
I think
I
so
think it
too.
needs.
And like,
I
actually, that's something we can learn from China. There's not a lot of stuff to learn from China, but like you can learn that from China. Like they are still so so much more like garage. There's so much more underground. It's like the punk scene has been really big here, and it's like affected like the metal, the rock, the fusion, everything. It's like more punk. Like it's more
mm.
like it's not supposed to be cleaned out like perfection makeup on the music. It's like it just is what it is, and that's fucking awesome. And
Just before I was
that's
going
really
to
nice.
Just before I was going to interview you, I went to get a cup of tea from downstairs, and on the radio, Motorhead was on. Well, Motorhead is why I'm here. I heard Motorhead in
Yeah,
1979, and
yeah,
then Ace of Spades. Well, actually, early 1980, Ace of Spades came out, and just hearing them again, and my hair stood up on the end because it's
yeah. I can
pure
imagine.
rock. And Motorhead is actually really simple and stripped down in a way, but they opened up the door to all this like fast, mad, all this thrash and death metal, black Norwegian black metal, all this stuff that's emerged. And I
Yep.
find it really creative and interesting. I really do, but I do lament the fact that it's turned into a bit of like it's like pop music now.
Yeah,
Pop
kind of.
music.
And like Motorhead was exceptional, and it was like Motorhead was straight from the heart. Like it was nothing else. It was nothing was fixed, you know. It was just from here, full on to the audience. No bullshit, you know. And
No,
I've seen them live when we've played at the same festivals and stuff like that. And like Mickey D on drums was awesome. I don't know what he was
Monster.
called the previous one, but
Yeah,
he's fucking amazing.
yeah. Filthy Animal
And
Taylor
yeah,
was the original guy, and he
yeah,
was playing a big double bass drum kit, and it was intense, and it was almost
yeah, yeah.
like blast beaty. I saw them in 1982 when I was 14, first gig I ever saw, and it was at the
Mm.
Birmingham Odeon, and I went in, and it was me with my uncle, all dressed in my nice clothes, because I'd gone out, and then it was just like Hell's Angels and bikers, the rest of
Yeah.
the place, and when they started up. They were on stage. You just heard this sound. That's still the loudest gig I've ever been to by about. I mean, they
Yeah.
couldn't do it now, health and safety.
No,
This
they could
sound
have.
started up like this, and they weren't there. And this fist came out of the ground like that, made of metal. Well, I like the iron
Yeah.
fist. It opened up and it got lights in each finger. And as it opened up, the beams of lights went out over the audience. And then you heard this sound, and then
Oh,
the ceiling came down, and Motorhead were on top of that ceiling,
no. Oh my
and
God.
it was so loud. Like I was deaf for
Yeah.
about 3 days afterwards. It
Yeah,
was
yeah, I
so
know.
loud.
That was
And
the
at the end,
point though.
oh, it was just so exciting. And that just got me loving, anything heavy. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I think that when you love heavy, you do go towards the jazz because the jazz is heavy. It's a different type of heavy.
Yeah, it is actually. It's like the heavy is in the not so heavy playing. Like it's I mean you can push like sorry for my bad English, but like you can like take some of the playing back to make it more heavy, you know? And
Yeah,
all these ghost notes and all these small little differences, they really goes through the speakers, you know? You really like, yes. When
well,
someone does, you know, when I mean, sometimes I can say like the breaks are the hardest part of the song. Like the breaks when it's completely quiet is the hardest part of a song because it's like it's so fucking hard in that silence and in that like it's they're aware of that it's silence for a reason, you know.
yeah,
And I
no,
really like that
playing
when you
space is
take
the
it down
hardest.
and you
Yeah.
like, "Ah," it's really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's and on this channel we cover lots of prog, lots of old classic rock. I talk about lots of
Yeah.
jazz fusion and jazz, but I really enjoyed talking to you and being able to show that all these metal bands are out there, all the decent ones, the people in there, that's much wider listening and it's feeding it. I mean, Meshuggah wouldn't exist without jazz fusion, especially Alan Holdsworth.
No, definitely.
You,
No,
you know,
never. Because also Thomas is like he's a really good jazz drummer too.
mm,
And the thing is like when this song Bleed, you know, with Meshuggah,
mm, mm.
he practiced that for 3 months, just that song to nail it on the recording. And like Meshuggah is no bullshit. Like that's real. That's
Yeah,
he
yeah,
is
I know.
playing that, and that
Yeah, I
is
know.
real. That's no triggers, and that's no like beat detective or stuff. That's him, and he's amazing.
That's
I
the
mean,
thing that
it's
oh,
like imagine
what we
having that also like sitting for 3 months with one song just to nail it, just to like have it on a record, and it's gonna be like a song for the rest of humanity's,
yeah, uh,
existence. It's
and it's like people climbing
crazy.
Mount Everest because once no one can climb Mount Everest or get to the South Pole. Then when somebody does it, all the drummers go, "Oh, it's achievable now." And Thomas
Yeah,
raised up the level of drumming. I mean,
exactly.
20 years ago, I had a chop, so I was doing clinics and stuff. Now I've got students who are kids, and because they're listening to Avenged Sevenfold and all these bands, and with these
Yeah, yeah.
incredible players, that their skill level is so high, and it raises up, and that enables more creativity to happen. But I feel that the industry at the moment is just stifling that because they haven't got the
Yeah, yeah.
guts to let the music. It's the producers have got in control.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know, I
It's
know.
that
They've
it's
taken over the business.
they're
Fuck
taking
them.
it over. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
But
the
also
thing
like
is,
because like I mean today a lot of this gent thing and this like emo core stuff, it's a lot of polyrhythm. I hear it more and more on more and more albums. Like it's this polyrhythmic thing, and
yeah,
it kind of comes from Meshuggah, you know, from the
mm,
they did it in the 90s on their albums like Chaosphere and stuff like that, and
mm,
they did the polyrhythm like in every song, and you were like mind blown. You were like, I can't follow this. I can't even hum it.
mm,
And then you started to like, oh, this is how they do it. This is how they think. And then you realize, okay, every song from Meshuggah is kind of in 4/4. It's polyrhythm. It's the
mm.
guitars, and the drummer needs to connect it. They need to like take the 4/4, take the actual riff, and connect it. Like it connects here in your body because the bass drum is doing the polyrhythm. The hands are doing the 4/4, and you need to like be that like link between it. So it's a big role, and now it's spreading, and it's influenced by. I think it's influenced a lot by the gent, like the early Meshuggah and stuff like that.
Well,
And it's really cool.
I came up listening to a lot of prog and people like Frank Zappa. So I was doing a lot of
Yeah,
this stuff in the 1980s with these sort of you know, polymetric and polyrhythm type of stuff. And then when the metal bands took that over, which I think came from, like Rush used to do it, and then Dream Theater did it a bit, and you had like
yeah,
Queensryche, and you had Voivod, and then when Meshuggah came out, it went to another level.
yeah,
And but the thing I respect about them is that they have been able to play stuff like that and yet reach a big audience
yeah.
and sell
Exactly.
records with actually very difficult music.
Yes.
And it's a band like, if you take a band like Animals as leaders,
Mm,
you know, it's what's it, Matt Garsker, isn't it? That drummer
yeah.
is insane. He's like one of the
Yes.
best
It's.
drummers in the world at the moment.
I
I
know. I
can't.
know.
It's just insane. And yet,
Yeah.
when I listen to the record, I can't quite hear him
No, yeah, 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 that's
Be-
true. But
because,
when you see a drum video with them, you're like, what
whoa,
the fuck? This should
man,
be the record. Like, yeah,
yeah,
that's
why
how
is
it
this
should
not the
sound.
record?
Yeah, yeah,
This is what we're saying together. Yeah, that's what we're
yeah,
saying. You know,
yeah. And
me-
also these like the really new successful bands like Sleep Token or Vola or these like extremely hard bands. Like the drums, you don't really hear like all these chops and all these like double strokes on the
Mm.
splash cymbals and hi-hats and stuff. But like when you see a live video behind the drum kit when they play, you're like, that's a jazz drummer. That's
They have.
fusion drumming in metal, and it's so awesome. It just lifts it up and it creates something new, and I really, really like that.
I didn't expect this from this interview, but it's really hammered home the strong link between jazz fusion, and metal, and
Yeah,
it's not being discussed. And my lot are a lot of they're a lot older lot, and they like a lot of jazz, rock, and fusion. But my audience has got taste, and I'm sure they're going to be putting all sorts of bands in the comments. You know, or you
yeah,
should check
definitely.
this
And
out.
also, I like if I had to do it like a tip or like something for young drummers, it's like diverse yourself. Don't niche when you're learning to play the drums. Like diverse, play what you like, play what you think sounds good. Fuck the norm, fuck the like. Don't care about all this. Just do what you like. Like get your own groove and your own personal style and like personality in music. That's what makes you unique, and you're never going to be a bad drummer. It's never going to be that. You're going to be you, and that's what being a good drummer is. That's how it
Yeah,
is.
I always like to end it with a message, and you have
Yeah,
that there. I'll probably clip that as well.
yeah,
And you know, it's like before we came on, I was doing my flower arranging class with my mates back here, as you could see, and they've done very well with the
yeah, I
flower
see them.
arranging. But I'm
Kind of
sure,
recognize your friends though.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I always like I always like the people with the moustaches to sit on the one side and the ones without the
yeah,
moustaches to
yeah.
sit on the other,
Yeah,
because
I see
I've,
them now.
you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
there's this hippie bloke behind me.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
been
Oh,
hiding the whole
really?
time. Yeah, there he is.
That
I think
looks like some of my wife's friend. Like she always talks about being in an ashram in India,
yeah.
and like she tries to teach me how to be a good shaman or like a
Well,
yoga instructor.
I got to
Yeah,
be honest. I mean, the Beatles look cool, but he looks really cool, doesn't
he
he?
looks
I mean, that's
really cool.
that's
Like imagine he's singing in a band. That would be crazy.
System of a Down.
Yeah,
But the reason why I bring them up is because this band behind us, they just did what they wanted to do,
exactly,
and it just
exactly.
shows, and
And
so
they
I,
became the biggest band in the world at the moment.
yeah, still,
Yeah. They did amazing songs and they were fucking amazing songwriters, and all of their different personalities could be heard on their albums. That's the thing. It had personality and like it had soul. That's what it is all about for me.
it is
Definitely.
this has been brilliant. We've got to that point. There's nothing more to say. Um, I think that if Metalite are watching this, I think you have missed out with this incredible, charismatic, brilliant drummer here that was willing to do the work, but you didn't want to know. You wanted to have your stupid drum programming,
No, it's
So
okay. It's like I don't have any hard feelings, and like I wish them all the best. But
no,
like
you, you've
you know,
said
it's
you've said nothing. You've said nothing about them. You've been
no,
very,
but and we
very
have been
generous.
good friends for all these years, and we've
Yeah,
hung out, and we have had so much fun together. So it's like
yeah,
it's no hard feelings. So
no, but
it's what it is, and I think
yeah.
it was good that it happened. It could have happened earlier, and like it's good that I got to go on tour and
Mm.
have fun. And
Well,
now I really look forward to like other projects
yeah.
and other bands or whatever happens.
Well, where would you want a link on this video to for you? What would you want it to go to? Instagram, would that
Uh,
be a good one?
yeah, sure, no
It-
problem. Whatever, like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever
yeah,
you want.
I'll do
It's up
that.
to you. It's your program.
It is my program, and I down
Yes, it
below
is.
we got a link to Leah's. It'd probably be the Instagram. I think that's best for the music industry always to use
And
that. That's what I've been told.
for your listeners, I have to say, go and listen to this guy when he plays the 13th. Damn. Oh my God. That was a
I
really tasty groove.
I just can't play 4/4. That's why I got no work. That's why I have to do the
Yeah,
YouTube
that
channel.
was really
But
tasty. And I love that, like how you use the cymbals and like the fills and everything. It's really
oh,
groovy. It
you're
was
so kind.
nice.
You're so kind. Spreading the love. Us drummers, drummers have a special thing, don't we? There is a special
Yes, we
thing with
do.
drummers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I will also put a link to Metal Light down below if you want to check them out.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
really great band. Check them out. So
Really
if
great
they
band.
if they do come along and say, well, what they, remember, it's like all, what's the word? All the any news is good news. What's the one? I can't remember it.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
what's
but
the
I know what you
saying?
mean. Like,
You know what I mean? I can't remember what the saying is now. But I think just I'll do a quick message to Metal Light. I'll just think. So there we go. We've done it there. I'm joking. I'm joking. I always have a bit of a joke at the end of the video. I don't really mean that. But
yeah,
next time, have some real drums on your record.
yeah. In China, we say "shabby." I'm not going to say what that means, but yeah,
Is that Swedish swearing or Chinese swearing?
it's Chinese.
Oh, brilliant! I'll
Yeah,
ring up my mate. I'll have to ring up my mate Richard Boxley. He lived in China for a number
yeah,
of years. And are you enjoying it over there?
yeah. I am. And the thing is, I'm here because my wife is she's a correspondent for Swedish News. So
Oh,
we're here
really?
making, yeah. So like, if you look in this house, I've built a live studio, like live TV studio with
Oh,
lights, and we do a lot of news reporting from this room, and we broadcast live for the Swedish television.
oh,
So that's
really?
why we're here. Yeah.
That's
And
incredible.
so I build the live studios and like room treat the sounds, like sound treat the rooms, and like
Yeah.
manage the camera and stuff like that. And I
Well,
also play a lot of music, so I'm having a good time.
You've got a lot of talents there. I'm really glad you've come on the channel. Send me my best wishes to your wife. I
Thank you
send
so
my
much.
best wishes to you. I hope all the future brings you everything you want. And shall we
I
say
hope the
goodbye to
same
the
for you, dude.
viewers? And
Thank you
so
so
bye
much.
bye everybody, and thanks for having there with us. And I'm gonna.
Leah.
That's the
Yeah.
one.
Thank you so